It is, first and foremost, big shout out to Crispin Lukidi, who's been listening. He's like, Fred Swaniker is going to be live on Kiss FM. I've got my notebook ready. Yes, indeed. He has walked into the studio. Super excited for this conversation. And of course, he's been to quite a few African countries. Kenya, this is not his first time here. Good morning, Fred.
Good morning, Adele.
How are you doing?
Good.
So I was telling all the listeners, members of Team Adele, that one thing that I'm addicted to is TED Talks, which is a good addiction, I think, because you get to hear stories from across the globe on everything, on tech, even relationships, on and of course on Africa and solving Africa's problems. So your TED Talk has always been one that I always remember, because you talked about the generation that's going to save Africa, right? But just in a nutshell, before we go further into what you're doing in the 254, how would you, I feel like there's not one label that I can give you. You say I'm Fred and I do this. What intro would you give yourself?
Wow, that's a tough one.
Yeah.
I'd say that I'm an entrepreneur that believes in Africa.
Yeah, I think it's that, because I thought about it and I was like, man, there's so much. If you put one word, you've missed out on so much more. You know what I mean? But one thing that struck me about you was, of course, the African Leadership Academy, and that's something that you're very, very, very passionate about. Why leadership? Why do you think that's going to be what saves Africa?
Well, I think that if you look at the things that have been holding Africa back, it's leadership.
Yeah.
Right. Whether it's almost all our challenges and poverty and governance and, the lack of jobs and everything. When you look at the root cause, it often boils down to leadership. So that's the thing that's been holding us back.
Yeah.
We've been dealing with many of the symptoms of bad leadership. One of the things we realize that we actually have to not just hope that God gives us good leaders, but let's find a way to develop better leaders in the first place. Yeah. And that's really what our mission is. Okay.
And do you remember when you first, even before you did everything, before you started setting up the academy, before we talk about the amazing things that you're working on, that you're launching in the 254, when did you first start taking leadership seriously? Like, was it back in school? Did you ever have roles of leadership back then?
Well, I never thought that I was going to be a leader myself.
Yeah.
I was just expecting to, life goes on, you get a job, that's just what I saw that would happen. But I think when I first started thinking about issues of leadership was actually very young.
Okay.
I remember, I was born in Ghana and then we moved to Gambia when I was 4.
Yeah.
And I vividly remember, being woken up in the middle of the night because there was a military coup that happened in our country. Mm-hmm. And we had to pick up all our stuff and walk through the bush to go to a safe house. And, for a week we slept under our beds because bullets were flying through the window and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then, I remember later on, a couple of years later, driving with my family, coming back from, dinner and being woken up by the flashlights from a cop asking for a bribe. And these things stuck with me, and I was 4 or 5 years old. I'm thinking, why aren't these leaders supposed to be protecting us? Aren't they supposed to be looking after us as their people? And so that just always was. And then even when I was 10, 11, living in Botswana, and at the time South Africa was going through the apartheid struggle, and Nelson Mandela was in jail, and they kept offering him the chance to get out of jail. Yeah. But he wouldn't come out until the people of South Africa were free. And I remember just watching how one person could make such a big difference in a country. Mm-hmm. And so that's when I realized that, if Africa is going to move forward, we just need better leaders.
The key is leadership. Yeah. Okay, so in the next 3 minutes, what does leadership, and Take It on Freaky Friday coming up in the next 4 minutes. But shout out to Terry-Ann Chabet, who always listens silently, but today she's come out because we have Fred Swaniker live in studio with us. So shout out to you, Terry-Ann. And we're talking about basically leadership and education in Africa and solving our own problems through leadership, right? So now your journey has brought you to Kenya, but before we tell people what you're launching in Kenya, that I'm super excited about, super sad that I don't fit the target market for it.
In another way.
What I do want to know is that at the end of the TED Talk of yours that I watched, you talked about the African Leadership Academy. So could you tell us more about that?
Well, the African Leadership Academy is an institution that is based in Johannesburg, South Africa. Yeah. But it draws young people from every country in Africa. Yeah. Who have leadership potential, and they come to South Africa for 2 years. They spend time in a boarding school, and then we prepare them for leadership and entrepreneurship, and we teach them about Africa and its challenges and opportunities. Because most people grow up in countries and they only learn about their history and the colonial power, but they don't actually learn about opportunities, within the continent.
Yeah.
And then from there, we send them off to top universities around the world. Now, interestingly, the largest number of students who come to that academy in South Africa come from Kenya.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. That's fantastic.
Yeah, so we take a lot of students from Kenya.
Yeah.
And then, they go on to top universities around the world and everything. And that started about, we just celebrated the 10-year anniversary of that institution. We've taken 1,000 young people through that.
That's brilliant.
But that was really the beginning of what's now become a larger movement of leadership.
Yeah.
That we call the African Leadership Group. And our objective is to unlock Africa's greatest wealth, which we believe it's youth. Right? We want to create 3 million leaders, young leaders, and entrepreneurs who are going to really take Africa forward.
And what do you think is the disconnect between the education that young people are getting in different African countries and solving African problems?
Well, firstly, I think the education that most high schools and universities in Africa are producing is not creating innovators and problem solvers. Right? It's creating people who don't question.
Yeah.
Because in many schools in Africa, you get into trouble when you question.
Say why. Right? It's a rap.
Yeah, exactly. And but innovations come because you challenge the status quo. You say, you always ask, why can't a better way be done?
Yeah.
Why can't we find a better way to do this, right? And so we need to change our education system such that it encourages questioning and it gets people to practice things instead of just get theory.
Yeah.
It links in with employment and also entrepreneurship, so that you're always innovating and think of new ideas and not just waiting for someone to solve your problems. Because Africa is the youngest population in the world. Right?
Yeah.
The average age of an African is 19.5. The average age of a German or Japanese is 46.
Wow.
Right.
So there's a lot of power to be unlocked. There's a lot of power
to be a young person in Africa, right? We need to unlock it, and then that's really going to be the engine of growth and prosperity for Africa.
I like that you're talking about entrepreneurship, because me and my girlfriends were talking about this, I think a couple of days ago, that it's very glamorized. It's nobody really goes in depth and tells you exactly what you need to open a business. All you're hit with, around you is just like, oh look, I'm flourishing, and nobody tells you
it's hard.
It's hard. There's got to be a good why. Why are you opening this business? What's the goal? So that's something you guys also touch on, right?
Yeah, very much so. You see, most entrepreneurs succeed not because they want to be rich.
Yeah.
They succeed because they want to solve problems.
Yeah.
And the money is a byproduct. Right? So Mark Zuckerberg really wanted to connect people. That was the problem he was trying to solve.
Yeah.
And that's what led him to Facebook. Bill Gates wanted to find a way to make people more productive. And so he created, Microsoft. The people who created the cell phones in Revolution in Africa, they wanted to find a way to allow people to communicate.
Yeah.
So you've got to therefore understand Africa's biggest problems and its biggest opportunities. So we've identified what we call the 7 grand challenges of the 21st century.
Okay.
These are big problems that Africa is facing, like urbanization, healthcare, education, infrastructure, youth unemployment, and things like that. So if for example, that 800 million people are moving to cities in Africa in the next 40 years.
Yeah.
That means you start thinking, oh my God, there are going to be all these problems with, traffic and, housing and, sanitation and all those things. So those are all problems, but those are also all great entrepreneurial opportunities. Because if you know that, for example, Nigeria has a backlog of 20 million homes and they're only building 100,000 every year. If you can be the one to figure out how to create homes, then you become a billionaire. Yeah.
And it's a lasting problem that you're going to be solving.
Exactly. So you're impacting lives and you're also creating wealth. And that's why young people shouldn't be looking at, all this. Everyone is talking about blockchain and Bitcoin and mobile. Yes, those are important, but there's lots of very unsexy businesses that need to be built in Africa. Agriculture.
Yeah.
We need to find ways to feed 1 billion people and to feed the world.
Yeah.
Arts, design, and culture. We can create a whole creative industry. We need to look at opportunities to trade between African countries. There's so many bottlenecks that we have in our society. And the young people who go and understand, start first with the problems.
And there's opportunity
and then you'll see the opportunities to create your own job and to create jobs for others.
That's a really good take home. In the next 3 minutes, something is launching first in Kenya. Yeah, we have bragging rights landed in Nairobi, and of course this is the first stop of many other countries to come. But before we get there, just looking at the creative industry, because you're saying, like, as young people in Africa, we really have the power to take things to the next level, right? And to solve our problems and to make a bit of money while we're doing it, because there's opportunity in the problems. The creative industry, do you think that there's tons of opportunity there as well?
Yeah, I think it's a huge opportunity, because you see, in Africa, we need to find ways to leverage our brains, not our natural resources. Right, that's where the wealth is going to come from.
Okay,
and we also have to think about entering spaces that don't require a lot of capital.
Okay,
the nice thing about creative industry, whether it's film, it's music, art, design, it's all about your brain. It's up in here. It's not. You don't need a lot of money to be creative.
Yeah,
right. It's free. It's just you have to think and imagine, and so. But the rest of the world is hungry for entertainment. They're hungry for beautiful art. They're hungry for good design. And it's something you can export as well. Today with technology, you can, that's how Justin Bieber became famous on YouTube, right? So the cost of producing, now with your mobile phone, you can create a world-class music video.
Yeah.
And, next thing you know, you can put it on YouTube and you're famous, right?
Yeah.
So, but we need to think about the business of entertainment.
Okay.
Not just, so the creative person is one part of a bigger ecosystem. Around that creative person, you need the lawyers to help them think through their contracts.
Yeah.
You need the promoters to help them take what they're doing to the mass market. You need, someone who can structure endorsements with consumer brands, so that and so forth. So there's a whole creative industry that people need to think about: distribution, legal side, technology, etc.
Yeah. And
young people need to think about, how do you get involved in that creative industry, because it doesn't cost a lot of money.
Yeah.
And you can actually, export it because of technology today.
Easier,
right?
yeah.
So it's a huge opportunity, and the good thing is that Africans, we've always been creative.
Yeah.
Right?
It's part of our culture, man.
It's part of our culture.
We don't just tell stories with words.
Exactly.
There's a lot of dance.
Exactly. So it's one
music,
of our competitive advantage, and we're not taking full advantage of it as a continent.
True. So speaking of all the loopholes and the things that we're forgetting, especially as young Africans, I want to talk about the ALX Launchpad that September is going to be launching in Nairobi.
Yes.
What is it, and what opportunities are there for Team Adele to be part of this Launchpad?
Sure. So Team Adele is the exact team that really can benefit from the Launchpad. The Launchpad is a program for young people who have been through university or college, but are looking for something more.
Okay.
They're looking for an opportunity to apply whatever knowledge they learned to creating entrepreneurial ventures.
Yeah.
It's an opportunity for them to be mentored by really inspiring people to develop their leadership skills, entrepreneurial skills. And it's a powerful opportunity to network with other young people and more mature people who can help them to get to the next step in their career.
Okay.
So it's a combination of a co-working space and an incubator for entrepreneurs and a platform for connecting with employers.
Okay.
We're looking for the most driven, talented, passionate young people who want to solve problems.
Yeah.
And we want it to be known by employers as the place where the top young people gather. So if you want to find young talent, come to the ALX. And so it's a matching place where the best employers are going to come saying, wow, if I come to this place, I meet the best young people in Africa, in Kenya. Yeah. And the best young people come there knowing that I'm going to get access to investors, to employers, and to other young people that I can also collaborate with to create my own venture. So think of it as really a vibrant hub of youthful energy that is going to unlock young talent for the benefit of Kenya and for the benefit of Africa. And so to sign up, what do I need to do? Because I know that it's not just everybody that gets picked. Yeah. It's ALX.app. Yeah. A for Apple, L for long, X for xylophone. Yeah. .app. Yeah. It's starting in September. And the best thing about it is that there's no upfront cost. So, you get selected. We're expecting thousands of applicants. We're only going to start with 300. Okay. We're looking for 300 of the most exceptional young people who can really become great leaders and entrepreneurs for Kenya. Yeah. And so is it open now, or we have to just time until September? It opens tomorrow. Okay. The application opens tomorrow. Yeah. And then people will be able to, start in September. And like I said, there's no cost to attend. It's a 6-month program. Initially, but then you get access to the network, a community for the next 5 years.
Wow.
Where in that during those 5 years, you're getting access to internships, you're getting access to jobs, you're getting access to investors, you're getting access to other young people that you can start your own venture with. Very important, though, that this is not something where we're guaranteeing anything to young person.
Yeah.
We're creating an environment
and giving you the skills.
But the young person needs to grab it. They need to take these opportunities that will be in their space, and they need to then drive their own future.
Okay, so we have Fred here for a few more minutes. I'm going to give you about 2 more minutes to send through your questions if you have any at all. This Launchpad is very exciting. What you can do is head over to Twitter at Kiss100Kenya and send through your questions. The hashtag is Adele. We do have Fred Swaniker live in studio with us, telling us about the ALX Launchpad, that its first stop is right here in the 254. So we've tweeted out the link that you can check out, guys. It's absolutely free. They're going to pick the individuals after you've done your application. What are some of the questions you'll ask us? Let's get ready as we're applying.
No. We'll find out tomorrow.
Okay, and then you'll see whether you're the person who's going to be picked. And it's a 6-month program. There are questions here. Joyce Humphrey saying, what if someone is almost done with uni and they're interested in joining the program? Are we locked out after September?
Not at all. Man, this is not just a one-time program. We're beginning a life long endeavor, and it's also something that every 6 months there'll be a new intake. So if you're almost done with school and you finish in December, you can join us in March, and then September then another intake next. So every 6 months we're taking a new batch.
Yeah.
We eventually want to have about 5,000 young people.
Yeah.
In this community. So there's going to be plenty of opportunities.
Yeah.
But you have to be one of the most driven and talented and passionate young people, because we want to make sure that when investors walk into that room, they know that everyone there as well is top class.
The right person.
And then when employers walk into that room, they know that everyone. So we are going to be doing a very rigorous selection process to make sure that we don't disappoint the investors and the employers who are coming to this place looking for young talent.
Yeah. And you told me, I started off at 8 a.m. saying that, I'm not the target audience.
Yeah.
I'd excluded myself, but I'm still included.
Yes, you're still included.
Yeah.
So attached to this Launchpad is a community.
Yeah.
Of professionals who are already working, who will be coming to the space to act as mentors to the young people.
Yeah.
But also to get access to lifelong learning opportunities for themselves. So there's always going to be interesting seminars happening in this place. Because learning is something that you need to do for the rest of your life.
Yeah, it never stops.
Before, you could go to university and get what I call one-shot education, and that could last you for the rest of your life. But the world is changing so fast that you need to keep upskilling yourself, and you need to keep learning more and more as the world changes.
Yeah.
So ALX is a place where adults, people like yourself, people who are maybe even CEOs, people who are in their 40s, can come for continuous learning.
Yeah.
And there are always 2-day programs, 1-week programs on different topics that you can come to keep refreshing your skills and your knowledge, so that you remain relevant as the world changes.
Yeah, and which it's doing pretty fast.
Exactly.
Okay, now just before we let you go, I want you to talk to Fred, who's 18 years old.
There's a Fred who's 18 years old?
You 18-year-old Fred. We won't do the math. Don't tell us how many years ago that we're not going to do the math. But 18-year-old Fred, who wants to start this business, has had this idea in his head, and obviously around you, you're just seeing the glamorous stories. What is the one thing you would tell that Fred?
Well, I would say that, be prepared to work hard, and because being successful isn't a short-term game. And I would say that Africa is an entrepreneur's paradise.
Yeah.
So look around at all the challenges that you see, and then start thinking about, the many, many creative ways you can solve that problem. And then connect with other young people so that you can uplift yourself, because our greatest energy, our greatest resource in Africa is youth. And you have more power than you think you do.
That's really powerful. It's really powerful. Thank you so much, Fred. It was an honor, meeting you, and of course, learning more about this Launchpad that's landed in Kenya first. I told you, bragging rights.
We're excited to be here and looking forward to, engaging with, Kenya's best young people.